cut to see the AEW World Champion at the start of Dynamite. If you went really quiet, you could hear somebody on the internet instantly get mad. Also, hello my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs, the only wrestling review show you need when we do bring the positive energy. And of course, because we are a week away, do not forget that a week tomorrow, or the Friday of WrestleMania weekend, you can come to WhatCulture live watch along for Smackdown. And then on Saturday and Sunday, when you're done watching WrestleMania Part 1 and Part 2, make sure you also come down for the free first come first serve live Ups and Downs. It's happening at the Luxor Hotel and Casino. There's probably an image on the screen right now with information, and there'll be a link down there. So that's right. Make sure the fun continues always until you die. What? Let's up those down. So yes, anyway, Jon Moxley was cutting a promo and he was like, oh my gosh, this AEW roster is the best roster ever assembled. But also, they're a bunch of goobers. Because he doesn't feel like they can get the job done, and of course, Moxley is a heel because he's being a hypocrite, because lots of people would have got the job done like a plumber, but all of his stupid Death Riders keep cheating. There was one line that I thought was a little bit of a swing and a miss though, just because Moxley was like, they don't want it enough, or that these young pups are coasting. He also addressed the Young Bucks and what they did at Dynasty, and quite clearly he was not aware, because he was all like, oh, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, you have come back, and I wasn't expecting it. And Moxley actually threw these guys into the mix as well, because he was like, you have forgotten where you've gone from, you have forgotten the game, all because you got obsessed with being on the board. So essentially he was calling them corporate stooges, and look, Jon Moxley does cut a very good promo, and he comes across all serious Sally, but just think, a small part of me, this part right here, just feels like we need to move away from this, oh man, the AEW company and the structure and the roster, and go back to like personal beefs. That's what we should do. It's really why the Swerve Strickland feud should continue, because Swerve can be like, John, you're a terrible human. I just don't need to be told that the All Elite Wrestling Young Guns don't give a shit. That's right, we went there, because everybody in wrestling loves to do that with their surprise swear words. So once again, even though delivery was good, I am going to give it a down. Maybe this is the reason the Death Rider storyline just needs a little kick up that took us. I don't care about how people feel about the company or how you feel about the company. I just want to see some good old stories that make me go wow. Moxley was then right in competition too, because he was taking on Shibata. I mean, why not? It does kind of tie into this The Ops versus Death Rider storyline that AEW just pushed go on. And of course, if that does end with Samoa Joe taking on Jon Moxley, I will do the Dance of Joy. Actually, this was surprisingly short. Like, they chopped each other, they drop-kicked each other. When they decided, well, I'm going to choke you, and the other guy was like, well, no, I'm going to choke you instead. And I suppose Jon Moxley's choke was the best, because Shibata passed out. Now, I do have one small aside here. People have to stop going to sleep on these things. We can have more tap-outs. Now, thankfully, a very nice person did do this later, but there's my little annoying no-point beat. The Young Bucks then walked out instantly, and they got right into Jon Moxley's face, and Jon did say something to him, when him and Marina Shafir just decided to walk off, which was handy for Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, because they wanted to cut a promo. Now, Nick did indeed put over the Death Riders, and of course said, we are your EVPs, so you should show us respect. So we are sticking to that gimmick. They didn't waste time either, and they definitely did not do the whole, we did something bad, but you don't deserve to hear the reasons, because they did give us an explanation. The reason they screwed over Swerve Strickland at the pay-per-view is because Hangman Adam Page is their friend, and they know deep down in his tum-tum, Hangman never wants Swerve to win the World Championship, so they were just there for their boys. Matthew then took over though and said also, by the way, this was a peace offering to the Death Riders. And of course, if we are going to break it right down, I think it's that line we need to focus on. Essentially, the Young Bucks are scared they're going to be murdered by the Riders of Death. Because when they're off TV, they realize they actually have more in common with these people than they realize. Because they too want AEW to be the best company in the world. So whatever we gotta do. So that's why they are impressed, because Jon Moxley was able to do what they weren't able to do, which is take over the company, when they actually invited these guys to have a business conversation, but Kenny Omega came out instead. Now, Omega totally understood what they were saying, but actually, if we are going to talk about buddies, well, the last time you saw me, and by the way, we did used to be pals, you pushed me off a stretcher. That is true. Omega did forgive them though, because as he said when he returned, this is about legacy and not revenge. When he told a very strange story about going to a friend's house as a child, and this friend had a dog that would poop everywhere, and the friend didn't care about the poop, so he never cleaned it up, which is what he thinks the Young Bucks have done to AEW. You have to excuse me laughing. Like, I love Kenny Omega. I genuinely think he's a generational talent, and one day we'll look back and remember that. That's a really strange thing to say. Kenny also thought about the fact the last time we saw the Young Bucks, they were shedding all those documents, and he knows what these were. It was receipts for private jets, and it was receipt for a chair to put in the master bedroom that was facing the bed. So that's right, he's clearly been on the internet. He was essentially calling them the Young Cucks. Therefore, it's not the Death Riders trying to kill the company, it's these two. And I kind of feel like this story beat has gotten over some people's heads. Kenny Omega was essentially saying, you absolute morons, you come out here and say you're trying to save AEW, but all you were doing was using the money to prop yourself up and to give yourself all of these toys, and essentially you were laundering the cash. I mean, I'm going too far there. But yeah, that's how I took it. Maybe I'm wrong. Omega was then all like, the time off did do you well, though, when he essentially assaulted Nicholas Jackson for putting on weight and said Matthew Jackson looked like a tomato, and just when they were going to fight, the coin dropped and out came Okada. Now, by this point, this segment was totally insane, and I was like, well, I bet my Nan comes out next. Then I realised my Nan is dead. Of course, Okada did this because he's best friends with the Young Bucks, so we were just reaffirming that when Swerve Strickland also arrived. Honestly, thankfully he did come out with a chair, otherwise it was going to be 3-on-2. Now the cool thing was he made sure to fist bump Kenny Omega, and you have to imagine this is building to an Anarchy in the Arena match, and Strickland made it very clear, I do not appreciate what did happen to me a few years ago, so somebody must die. He's mainly going to focus on the Young Bucks when he got jumped by Pac, and that kind of did make sense again, because they were about to have a match. At this point, we just need to lie down and breathe, because a lot flubbing happened. Now, I seem to be in the minority here, but I actually liked everything the Young Bucks did say, because they're being super duper cowards, and yes, Kenny Omega did call them out. You don't care about AEW, once again you stole the cash. Plus the Hangman thing kind of does work, and hopefully Paige addresses that at some point, and Kenny Omega also referenced the fact that they whooped his ass last time they were there. So look, maybe it's not the greatest storyline we've ever seen, but it does make sense, I keep using that phrase, and it was addressed. So many times in all wrestling companies, people just go, they'll definitely forget. So surely maybe it was squeezed maybe a bit too tightly into 20 minutes, whatever it was, and yes, it is probably going to lead to Anarchy in the Arena, but I am going to give it an up. I'm not saying this didn't go off the rails at times, it certainly did, but I think overall it did do its job, but I am going to give it down to Moxley versus Shibata. I don't really understood why that existed. I guess it did kind of tie into the main event. It was just too short. That's not me saying I think every matches belong. I just don't think we needed to do it. When more sad things happened. I mean, good grief. Actually, though, this is the real stuff, and we'll just jump to the end of this match because it was Swerve Strickland versus Pac. And after some kind of buckle bomb, it was quite clear that Pac was in pain with his foot or his ankle. He talked to the doctor, and essentially the match stopped. I mean, Swerve did get him back in the ring and gave him the house call of the Swerve Stomp for a really quick 1-2-3. But there's no ups and no downs here, because Pac basically only just came back, and every time he seems to get some momentum, this does happen. Can you imagine how difficult this must be to process? I just want to send all the best to that guy, and I hope it's not too bad and he can be back soon. But yeah, this is the stuff we should be focusing on, because as always, wrestling is the most important of the least important things. So once again, fingers crossed. When we learned that the big old fun 8-man tag team match later was going to be for $400,000, so that's pretty good. And we cut to the heel team that is now captained by Ricochet, or at least that's what he says. And if you go off his words, it certainly sounded like he was going to pocket all that cash for himself. Of course, it wasn't the same with the baby faces because they're nice people. And Will Ospreay is going to spend his $100,000 on going to Disneyland. Speedball is going to buy some shoes. I think Kevin Knight said he's going to Magic City. And Mark Briscoe was the best. He was like, well, maybe I'll diversify my portfolio, which probably was a little bit of a tie into real world events. That made me chuckle. Quick video as well for the Owen Hart Cup tournament for the women, and that is always good because it makes it feel important as we ran through all the matches. When Renee Paquette was like, oh, hi, Hangman Adam Page, would you like to speak to me? Now, he didn't want to do this because he just stormed right into Swerve Strickland's dressing room, and even though he didn't 5 Swerve, he pounded Prince Nana, and he was like, listen to me, you absolute idiot. I was not trying to help Swerve at the pay-per-view. It's like, all right, bro, nobody said you were. But it does mean that if when he's in the Owen Hart Cup tournament that does start next week, if Strickland tries to stick his nose in the Cowboys business, well, there will be hell to pay. And if we go on the past, he means it literally. Amazingly, Nana there said, listen, man, because you are here, I want to apologize to you. Honestly, Hangman and Page could not handle this at all. It was like all his hopes and dreams had just been thrown in the ocean because, of course, he still has so much hate deep down in his Tootsie Toes. So as ever, Hangman is just the best character ever. There is so much to this dude, and it probably means eventually it's going to be Adam Page and Swerve Strickland teaming up, maybe to take on the Young Bucks. And I would actually prefer it if we had the Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland one-on-one match, where there is no stipulations, but they do have a mutual respect, and if someone wins, they become a team. But listen, man, that's just a pile of nonsense I throw at you, and ultimately, this is really good stuff. I like it a lot. Some of my favorite stuff on AEW Dynamite. When we got to this 8-man tag, honestly, it was just wonderfully bonkers. Now, some people still get mad at these, but I just find that so confusing because AEW has now literally been doing them for 5 years. You don't have to like it, and you can hate it, and you can shout about it, but when you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, well, the joke's on you, open your eyes. It was also Ospreay, Briscoe, Knight, and Bayley taking on Ricochet the Beast Mortis, and Action Andretti and Lio Rush. I was like, man, they really did sneak on here. Bless this Ricochet as well, because he pretended he was going to fight, and as soon as Bayley tagged in, he did run away. But that meant Speedball and the Beast Mortis went at it. Surprise, surprise, it was really good. Eventually, Ricky tagged himself back in because he's such a wonderful dickhead. And this is when we did get the big 8-man standoff. And eventually, man, there's so much good you can take from it. Like, there was this dive spot and the camera angle was absolutely redonkulous. Then at one point, Ricochet did his, I went over the top rope and I landed on my feet. When all the good guys were like, well, we're waiting behind you and we're going to smash you in the face. Now, it also did make me a little bit sad because as they did do this, they insulted his bald head. I'm like, listen, my friends, you do know one day this could happen to you. You're all relatively young, and when it does, and Mother Nature kicks your ass, do you think we're going to be there for you, the Bald Brotherhood? I mean, we will, because we're nice people, but trust me, we will do it disappointingly. Morris and Bayley then lit things up again when Ricochet came in, and once again he missed a dive. And that's when Speedball thought, haha, I can get Mortis, who hit him with a Samoan drop. And look, the Beast is definitely not Samoan. He then tried it with Knight, but Kevin was able to reverse it into a DDT, and that guy is just on fire right now. When Action and Leo were right, oh my gosh, it's our moment, and they hit the go button. Ospreay was able to stop them, and then Mike got hit with a powerbomb by Ricochet. When William threw back in with an Oz cutter, seriously, I never want these to go anywhere. You can just sit down and forget about all your real problems. Kevin Knight then hit the UFO splash, but all the heels broke that up, but very sadly, it left the Beast Mortis in no man's land. So Will was like, I just want to go home and play Assassin's Creed, Hidden Blade, 1, 2, 3. Now, I've really not done this justice, because once again, it is so damn entertaining, and it just makes me happy. And that's why I watch professional wrestling. They're all so damn talented too. There ain't no way I'm not giving it up. When we got footage of FTR trying to kill Adam Copeland at Dynasty, and by the way the commentators reacted, he may actually be dead. I mean, they really went on hard on Dax and Cash too, to the point I was laughing. Don't get me wrong, this was exactly what you should have done. But this Tony Schiavone, he was like, Dax Harwood, you are the worst person on the planet, and I bet even your daughter is ashamed of you. I was like, Tone, you can't say that. Maybe it was her idea. It was really well executed though, and I have a feeling FTR may beat up Tony Schiavone soon. But yeah, if somebody has just gone villain, everybody else should be like, well, you disgust me. Good stuff. When out came the Hurt Syndicate because they wanted to celebrate their big tag team title win at the pay-per-view. Makes sense. Now MVP just made it out like it was another day at the office, and Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley were all like, well, hey, we did it. When, of course, MJF interrupted, and this tickled me as well, because he basically stood in line and pretended he was already with the group. He even said you're welcome for everything that he did do at the pay-per-view. Thankfully, he also talked about the Owen Hart Cup and said, I never wanted to be in that thing. That was Tony Khan's decision, and I told him no. So I was like, well, once again, I appreciate that. They just tied up a loose end. I think Maxwell even said that he doesn't want to sweat his balls off by going through a tournament, which is another reason why he scratched the back of the Hurt Syndicate. He helped them at the pay-per-view, and now they can help him win back the AEW World title. He then asked MVP what the initiation ceremony was because he was ready to join. When Bobby Lashley got the mic, and he was like, I didn't even know you did that on Sunday. I just took out Big Bill because that's what I do, and now I do know I hate you more than ever. Shelton Benjamin chimed in too, so MVP was like, listen man, we do have a way we do these things. To get into the Hurt Syndicate, you need 3 thumbs up. Like, damn it, they're stealing my gimmick. Now, of course, MVP pointed his thumb in the up direction, but Shelton went the other way because he's not interested. Bobby Lashley was so happy. When they kind of left the ring, MJF was all like, shrug emoji. What am I meant to do now? Now, I would presume that we are doing Bobby Lashley versus MJF at some time. If that is the case, sign me up, daddy, because that sounds brilliant. It's just one of those matches a few years ago I never would have thought possible, but now because we do have wrestlers jumping ship, it is on the table. So I like this storyline. For whatever reason, I find it super intriguing, and we just keep planting the seeds, and there's more later too. Renee Paquette was then chatting to Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne as Penelope was like, we don't care that Megan lost at the pay-per-view. Do you think that diminishes anything else she's done? No, it does not. She also promised that Bayne was going to kill somebody on Collision when Megan took over, and she essentially channeled General Zod here, because she was like, you will bow down to me. You remember Zod, he wanted everybody to kneel, so kneeling, bowing, it's all the same. I really do think this pairing works though, because when it comes to speaking, Penelope can do most of it, and then Megan can just walk in with a few words. So yeah, there is massive potential here. I am excited. Toni Storm then came out to commentary too. Honestly, you need to go and watch all of this. Not only did she climb, or crawl I should say, across Adam the announce table, she also basically told Taz, I stole your car, and all of them were cracking up. It was also Chris Statlander versus Thunder Rosa in the Owen Hart Cup, and that was a really good TV match. But also, Toni on commentary was hilarious, because she was all like, well, if I team with Chris Statlander, we could be known as Thunder Thighs. She also said eventually one day her and Tony Schiavone can be a team. They can just be called tits. I know some people aren't into titles Toni Storm, and that's perfectly fine, but in terms of the heart and soul of All Elite Wrestling, well, I would give it to her. Otherwise, back in the ring, Chris Statlander was powering up and she was just throwing Thunder Rosa around. When Rosa went for a drop kick, she missed, so these two started to brawl. Commentary team were then also like, oh my gosh, what if Megan Bayne does go after Toni Storm again? So there you go. Chris then stopped Thunder with the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. And did it work? Of course it didn't. It never does. It did get a 1-2 ooh, which is when Thunder came back with a destroyer for her own 1-2 ooh. That's when I was just like, you know what? It's just solid stuff. Eventually, Rosa was able to hit Statlander with this massive knee for another near fall. When she was like, oh, I feel so good right now, I'm gonna hit the ropes. Thunder shouldn't have done that because she got murdered with a lariat. Wednesday Night Fever, 1, 2, 3. Chris goes through to the next round. They made sure to hug afterwards, and yes, I am gonna give it an up. All of this worked. You had the wrestling and you had entertainment. That's what AEW is all about. Don Callis was then in the back, and he too was talking about the Owen Hart Cup tournament because Takeshita Shah beat Brody King. When he was like, look at my dude Carl Fletcher and look at my dude Takeshita, they're in their 20s, they're jacked, and they're all oiled up. Oh, all right then. It also kind of felt like he was saying there is some openings due to injuries recently. If I was AEW and Josh Alexander has signed, I would absolutely put him in the Don Callis group. I think that would work just fine. Then cut to Adam Cole, who of course is our brand new TNT champion, and he was there with Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, and they were like, oh man, Adam, you're so damn inspiring. We want to win gold too, as Adam promised he was gonna do the best for this belt. Now I really hope we do this to light a fire under the TNT title, but also, I just said the word, and I'll say it again, this was really inspiring. Adam Cole has been through so much. Just made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. Sadly though, I do have it down, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've missed something. But where the hell did Matt David and Mike Bennett go? I'm pretty sure they were part of the Undisputed Kingdom, and recently they just haven't been there. So again, I'm gonna call this a provisor down. It doesn't matter who the flub cares. Well, I care a little bit, because people can't just fall into the Phantom Zone, but I'm a bit worried that I've missed something here, and once again I am stupid. When we also had a talk show on wrestling TV, and I've told you this on all of my shows, doesn't matter whether it's Miz TV, doesn't matter whether it's the Grayson Waller effect, or doesn't matter if it's Chris Jericho learning TV tree time, whatever the flubby calls it, I'm giving it a down. I don't know why it bugs me so much. I don't know why it irks me. I have a problem, but I'm always gonna be honest, I'm always gonna be transparent, so I'm giving it a down. Just let people talk. Anyway, Chris Jericho did admit that not only did he lose his Ring of Honor championship, but he lost a tooth during his match with Bandito, which is true. And fair play to you, Masked Man. You went and did it. He was also frustrated because Brian Keith and Big Bill also didn't win the tag titles. When they came out and Bill grabbed the mic, Brian was like, no bro, don't do it. It's like, listen, not only am I really tall, but I'm gonna tell him. Because while they are super happy to be in the learning tree and do think they can be educated by Jericho, they don't want to be punch bags, and they certainly don't want to be humiliated just because Christopher's in a bad mood. So if that does not change, they are going to leave. When Jericho grabbed the mic, and he was like, well, you do still have a lot to learn, because that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say you guys have all the potential in the world, and one day you could even be world champions. But actually, as we are having a little bit of a chat, do you know one reason why I may have lost my Ring of Honor title? Because neither of you were there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sad, I'm just disappointed. Like, oh my gosh, he's become their dad. He even hinted that it was their fault. I was like, that's like me saying, I'm only bored because of life, because it is so stressful. This is when Chris Jericho lost his damn mind, and he got a bat, and he smashed up the television that was in the ring while shouting, I'm disappointed. And at one point, I'm not even kidding, he said, I'm flubbing disappointed too. And he did not say flubbing. Now before that, I was going, use your words, Chris, because he was showing violence and he used his words. I was like, man, maybe you should go back the other way. When he decided, I'm not sure we can even be on the same page, so maybe I need to go away, and basically insinuated he has left AEW for a while. which off the record he has, because he's going on a Fozzy tour, but ignore that. So I actually thought this was really good, because not only did it put Big Bill and Keith in a position of power, but we didn't do the split right away. You absolutely can give it a little bit of time. So in terms of an effective segment, I am going to give it an up. And actually, even though they never win, the learning tree I do actually think has helped Big Bill and Brian Keith. I mean, they're on TV way more than they were, and I love those guys. So actually, I'm a fan. Alicia and Tao was then talking to the Hurt Syndicate, and they were like, well, what's next for you? And they sort of talked about MJF a little bit, and Shelton Benjamin even called him a funny little George Costanza. I was like, what a reference. Bobby Lashley's big point is, though, that they cannot trust Maxwell, and that's when him and Shelton left the room. And of course, Friedman must have sensed this. He walked in, and he slapped Alicia on the ass, and he told her to leave. They are dating in real life. He also asked MVP why he's being treated like such a bitch, when I think MVP said, I'm gonna get this wrong, you know, we are the Hurt Syndicate, so it's about business, so you need to work out what the consumer wants and sell it to them. And while that sounds like a riddle and you have to walk around Gotham City finding some trophies, I think Umvup was saying, if you want to win over Bobby Lashley, figure out what he needs. So it ties into what I was talking about earlier, there is definitely something to this, and either we do get Bob versus MJF, or he does figure out a way to get in the group. Either way, I'm in. Jericho was then seen leaving the arena, smashing things up, and I did find that very entertaining when it was the Ops versus the Death Riders, just a tag team match, but we are building for something more. It was also Samoa Joe and Hook taking on Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, and it's just Samoa Joe, man. He is the best. If you do want to make him the world champion again, this bald idiot is not going to mind. I mean, it's not going to happen, but still. Joe and Yuta also started this off, and Wheeler thought he could trade it with Joe, and he was totally wrong, which is when we got to Claudio and Hook. And you know the deal with Castagnoli. He was just dishing out Sagat uppercuts. Soon after this as well, Yuta dived at Taz's son, or the wonderfully haired warrior, and he just stepped out the way. That's right, he did the nope spot. He's learned from his fake dad. Claudio then stomped on him, which looked totally horrific, which allowed the Death Riders to go to work. And Wheeler Yuta even hit an angle slam. Don't know why I told you that, I just found it interesting. Hook soon remembered he loved suplexes and he hit a T-bone when he was going to tag in Joe, but he was too busy basically beating the shit out of Claudio Castagnoli, and eventually they were on the outside and they were throwing each other into barricades. Hook then realized he could go it alone and he applied the red rum, which of course is when John Moxley walked out there. I mean, this dude literally can't help himself. Yuta then raked the eyes to get out of the hold when Shibata realized, oh wait a minute, I'm in the ops too, and he walked out there, and I guess this did justify the opening match, although you could have done it anyway. He walked up behind Moxley, and he applied the choke. Samoa Joe then saw this, and he thought, well, I'm gonna choke out Claudio, and Hook was like, well, I'm gonna do a choke too, and he locked it into Wheeler Yuta, and Wheeler, you are my favorite person of the evening, because he tapped out, there you go, the ops win. Rena then got mad, and she was using a chair, which allowed the Riders of Death to get back in control. But honestly, the worst bit was Claudio Castagnoli. He set the chair up so the legs were facing towards the sky, and he gave Hook a neutralizer. Now listen, he placed him perfectly, but it still looked horrific. That must have sucked. It also means the Hook is definitely dead, and the Ops then ran the Death Riders out of the ring as they laughed like children. And Samoa Joe, man, he just went off on the mic, and he even called them the Dick Riders. Now, if anybody else said that, it wouldn't have worked, but Samoa Joe is magic. Is the best threat you'd ever heard in your life. He also called them sons of bitches, and they do want a shot at the trio's titles. Now, if Pac is injured, I don't know what you are going to do here, but either way, the Ops should win those belts, and we should do, even if it's on television, a match between Samoa Joe and John Moxley. So in terms of finishing the show, I am going to give it an up. It's just Samoa Joe. Anything he does, I will get right behind. I thought this was pretty good. Which brought us to the end of AEW Dynamite, and yes, it was an alright show, so I am going to give it an up. I just need to see what is going to happen between Swerve and the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page. And if it does peak it all in, and we get a title change, all of this is probably going to be justified. Now, of course, please do let me know how wrong I am by leaving a comment below, like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Click the video on the screen, go in the description, and click the links for all of our Vegas shows. Otherwise, have a terrific day, my friends. I love you, should not have when I say love, and I'll see you soon.